Hello YouTube, happy Sunday. The weekend went by quick and I ain't even do nothing. The days are really, November is over, y'all. Like, that is it. This is the last week of November. This Saturday coming is the 30th, and then this time next week we'll be in December. That fast. Like, blink of an eye. It's so crazy. But I wanted to talk about Netflix. Shout out to Netflix. They have The Parkers. They had Moesha, but they took it off, I guess because the ratings was low. And that's what I wanted to ask people. Like, why wasn't nobody watching? Because for them to take it off, that means that nobody was watching it. So my question is, why weren't people watching Moesha? And The Parkers is on, and also Martin. Martin is my favorite all-time show. I love it. Parkers, Moesha, and Martin. Those are my three favorite shows. I know every episode. As far as urban shows, those are my favorite. White shows, I gotta give it to Golden Girls. And Golden Girls is like the only white show I actually really watch and like. Seinfeld is okay. I've seen a few episodes. Friends, I just can't get into it. Certain shows I just can't get into. Girlfriends, I could never get into it. I didn't like the fact that it was like a little stereotypical with like one of them was homeless and couldn't keep a job. The other one, two of them had attitudes, and one of them just couldn't get a man. The one, Diana Ross's daughter. So I just couldn't get into it. It wasn't my cup of tea. But Martin was my all-time favorite show from childhood. Like, when a show is good when you're 9 years old watching it, and then when you're 35 and you still laugh at the same jokes. Like, Martin is just a classic. Like, nobody could deny it. Martin is just that. It's just that show. And today I wanted to talk about Martin then and now, how we feel about the accusations. I wanted to update everybody. Those of you who've heard, they had a reunion and they talked about having a spinoff with Gina. And everybody deals with sexual harassment differently. And so I've seen the comments on social media about her. And I don't want to judge her, but it's really hard not to, because sexual harassment is a serious thing. And the reason why a lot of victims are not taken seriously is because they don't stand up for their right. They don't stand. I'm not saying you should hold a grudge, but if someone sexually harasses you, you need to put your foot down. Now, what I was confused about is she was on The View. I think it was last year or the year before. And they asked her, frankly, like, what's good with you and Martin? And he said he called her. Now, my question is, how the hell he get your phone number? You guys are, from my understanding, you guys are old co-workers, right? Because that's what it is. Y'all worked on a show together. Y'all were not, basically, from what I know, the only people that were personal friends was her and Pam. They were personal friends. And then Pam was personal friends with Martin, right? So that was like their mutual friend. And, he made you feel uncomfortable, which no man should ever do. He was harassing you, whatever, to the point that you left the show and the show ended. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. What do y'all feel about the harassment thing? I want you to comment, like, and subscribe. And the floor is open. What do y'all think about the whole Gina and Martin thing? Do you think that he actually harassed her? What do you think actually happened? I personally feel, given his personality and how outrageous he was, they said how him and Cole didn't get along, him and Tommy didn't get along, that he was very rude to everybody on set. So it's very believable that he harassed Gina. I think when he harassed her, it wasn't on a sexual thing. I think it was he took her for a joke, or he felt like oh, I could play with her and do what I want, she not gonna do shit type thing. Because one thing about a person that is a narcissist or has OCD, or a person that's just controlling in general, they lack boundaries, right? So Pam, even though she's an actress, her demeanor, like, you can kind of tell she's not the one or the two. So he wasn't going to do that to Pam, not just because they were friends, but you could just tell with her demeanor, like, she's not with the shits. Like, she would have stomped him out. Like, she would have fought back, right? She would have slapped him right there on set if he tried to do anything, right? Just the way she portrays herself and her demeanor. So people know who to try and who not to try, right? So I think he did that with Gina because he took her for a joke. He was taking advantage. You can see she's a nice girl. She's probably quiet, and so he took advantage of that, unfortunately. So I think what happened is he was inappropriate with her, and she did feel uncomfortable. It was unfortunate that they decided to end the show because, in my opinion, the last season was the best season. The episodes, and this is not throwing shade to Gina, aka Tisha Campbell, but the episodes without Gina were really good. They were really funny. You got to see a side of Pam that you didn't see before. Cole. Pam was always funny, but when there was no Gina, you got to see the characters really come alive in the different scenarios. When Pam was stuck with Cole and they were on a cruise, and Martin was getting stalked, and the cuckoo clock, and just everything that was going on, it was just so hilarious. When Pam had a cousin that looked just like her, and she escaped the psychiatric ward, it was just, you got to see Pam like you never got to see her before, and I wish they would have kept going. I wish they would have had a spinoff with Pam and her new job, A&R, and I feel like they could have went from there. They could have just kept it going with Martin. The show is called Martin, but focus on Pam and her career, and then focus on Tommy and finally give him let the world know where his job is at, and then Cole, and they could have focused on those characters and have Martin like visit every now and again, since it is his show. But they could have really did something with that. They were talking about a spinoff. What do y'all think? Do y'all want a spinoff? Personally, I wouldn't want one because it's all these years later. They in their 50s. What are you gonna do? I think if they was to have a spinoff, then they would have to act like they in their 40s instead of their 50s. You would have to start with California, right? Because that's where they left it off. So start with, they have kids, the kids are in their teens, and then you go from there, right? Yeah, so it would make sense for them to start at teenagers or grown people, because it's like all these years passed, so they're not in their 20s anymore, so you would have to try to make them a little bit older, stuff like that. So I personally do not want to spin off because I just think it would be weird. I did hear of a prequel. They said that they was going to do a prequel, but that's kind of hard to do when everybody is older, and then you don't have Tommy. So who's going to take Tommy's place? I think they should just leave Martin the way it is. I would love to have an interview with Gina to really find out what's going on. She's claimed on The View she can't talk about it because it's legal stuff. Like, that was over 20 years ago. Why you can't talk about it? She's like, I can't talk about it because it's in legality. Something like that. And I'm like, girl, it was over 20 years ago. Like, you could talk about it. Like, but I would love to know, like, what was really going on. Why is it that nobody else could co-sign to what was happening? If he really was harassing her, why none of the producers, why Tommy, Cole, or Pam could say, yes, this happened, yes, he was obnoxious, yes, he was harassing her. Why nobody saying that? You know, it's just one of those situations where it's he say, she say, and she's like, oh, it's healing and we move forward. And I'm all for forgiveness. I'm very big on that. I feel like, yes, you need to forgive people to move on in life. You don't want to be holding grudges. But if somebody sexually harassed you at work, because that's what it is we don't see it as jobs because we're being entertained at home. But this is a job. You're an actor. He's an actor. If somebody harasses you at work, I think it would be wise to never work with them again. Just saying, because not only can he do it again, it's just like it makes you look away. Like, okay, because if somebody really violated you, why would you give them an opportunity to do it again? It just doesn't make sense. And the question is, you know, now people have a way of getting people's number because that's just the world we live in. But I'm also curious to know, how did he get your phone number? Like, she was like, oh, because everybody was talking about, you know, the show and how it went down. And he was like, oh, they're talking about the past. And she's like, oh, it was healing and we move forward. How the hell did he get her number? That's what I want to know. Like, this is somebody that she worked with over 20 years ago, right? So my question is, how did he get your number? And what the hell really happened for you to be pressing? Because she had pressed charges. He didn't get arrested, but he had to pay a fine. Like, what the hell happened for you to have to do all of that? And what the hell happened for you to feel like you're going to forgive and forget and move forward with him? Those two things I would love to know. She won't tell them on The View. She's like, whatever. But that's something that we as the audience, I guess, will never know. And Pam, you know, she did say he had his ways and whatever. But she personally didn't know of such a, you know, sexual harassment. Like, she couldn't co-sign and say, yes, that's what he did, or no, that's not what he did. Everybody was kind of confused, you know, like, huh? You know, it's a classic case of he say, she say. Because nobody is saying, yes, he did this to Gina. Yes, he made her feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And then on top of that, he's worked with women his whole career. Why is it only her that came forward? And are there other victims? I'm curious to know. Because most of the time when men do this in any industry, it's always other women. So are there other women that he victimized and they're just not saying anything? With the Me Too movement, you know, are there others, you know, that's going to come forward and do a documentary about Martin? Like, you know, the first victim was Gina, and now it's... Only time will tell, right? Only time will tell. They did say how he was high on cocaine and ran down Hollywood Boulevard in a winter coat. You know, he was just acting irate and crazy. But his career has been flourishing out of all of them. He's been doing the best out of everybody. You know, he never did another sitcom, but he's always in a movie. He did Big Mama House. He did Bad Boys. A Thin Line was during the time of the show. You know, he's always in a movie. He's always doing something. So he's always relevant. And, you know, the show was like the beginning. Well, before that, during that was Def Comedy Jam. And then the show. And the show was like the backbone of his career. You know, so it really helped his career a lot. And after the show, he's been doing good. So, yeah. He was married twice. So I feel like his wives would know about him and what type of person he is. He's divorced twice, you know, so yeah, maybe we'll get a documentary one day. Maybe we won't. But what do y'all think? Comment, like, and subscribe. Do y'all want a sequel? Do we want a prequel? How did you feel about the show when it came out in the 90s? Did you feel like it should have ended the way it did? I personally feel like they did a good job the way it ended. They went to California. That was on a positive note. Nobody died or anything tragic. Moesha, the way it ended, that was horrible. Like, the ratings was going down. Once her brother Ray J came on the show, the ratings went down. I remember being in 6th grade and everybody was like, yo, what's up with Moesha? Like, why is her thing so dramatic? Like, even my father was like, yo, it's too much drama on Moesha. And once Kim left Moesha, that was it. Like, it was whack. She carried the show. It was crazy. Like, literally, when Kim left, people stopped watching Moesha. And Moesha went off the air on a bad note. Like, Miles went missing. And she found out her cousin was her brother. It was just very, very messy. That show was so messy. But yeah, now we don't have any sitcoms. We have something called Abbott Elementary. I haven't watched it yet, but you got like a few black people in that. Yeah, we're missing our shows. Like, we don't really have any shows. The only thing we really have is reality TV. Yeah, so what do you guys think? Comment, like, and subscribe. Those are my thoughts.